Over the past few months, I've made a few different videos speculating about updates coming to Hypixel Skyblock. One of them, of course, being about the foraging update that we've supposed to be getting for the past 2 years. Also, a similar style video about Slayers v2 that, well, we really should have had about 2 years ago too. But with the alpha being open once again, of course the alpha server is used to test new updates, and essentially the topic of this test period is attribute testing, as we all know. The addition of attribute shards being applicable to pretty much most items in the game. Not just the original Crimson Isle sets and other items. Don't get me wrong, who doesn't want Mana Pool 10 Mana Regen 10 Storm, or a Deadeye 10 Terminator, and there's many more amazing combinations. Like I've said before, this looks like it could be pretty game changing and probably something that should have been added to the game probably about a year ago when the Crimson Isles was added. However, it just completely pains me to see completely and utterly lousy progression through foraging, and the fact that Slayers like Tarantula go up to a tier 4 Slayer, and a tier 4 Slayer you could probably brush with a feather and it would die. It's just a waste. A wasted opportunity to actually have something good. You know what, fair enough. I think the issue with Slayers is nowhere near as big as the issue with foraging. At the end of the day, you can go over to Maddox and, well, I guess since the last foraging update, you've probably got at least 2 new Slayers. Obviously we have Void Glooms, which has done quite a lot for the game. You know, we have the Terminator and other items. My progression in Blaze Slayer is, well, not really anything, to be honest. But at least it's something different for the players who can compete. From what I can find, there's around about 3,000 to 4,000 people that have Foraging 50. Foraging 50 is just over 55 million Foraging XP. And for a game like Hypixel Skyblock that's been around for over 3 years now, the fact that only 3,500 people have actually reached the maximum Foraging level kind of says it all. With literally no new content at all. And the best Foraging item you can get is strangely from Obsidian Collection, which makes no sense at all. Regardless of that, this is the best we have. There's no wonder so little people have reached Foraging 50. It's very understandable. But before we go any further, you should subscribe to the channel. Become part of the 24%, there's no reason not to. Also, you should join the Discord server, it's linked in the description of every video. Now of course, getting to a max skill level isn't meant to be easy. It's supposed to be a grind, and that's the whole point of Hypixel Skyblock. But, now when it comes to skill like mining, we have the Dwarven Mines. We have things like Mithril, we have drills, weird invisible creepers, a skill tree to level up. It even has its own custom blocks called Mithril, which are, well, grey wool, blue wool, and sort of just prismarine blocks. We've also got the Crystal Hollows, where you can mine, basically, old glass, which is classified as gemstones. Even farming just had a massive update. 2 massive updates, to be honest, the Garden and the Garden 1.5. Giving us a whole new island, NPCs that visit the island, basically an automated money-making machine with a composter, a ton of new items, a new and improved way to actually farm. The list is endless. Bearing in mind, probably wasn't even 2 years ago, we already had a pretty decently big farming update when we basically got all these items here. We got the Jacobs contest and all. As for combat, I know the End Island was added in a long time ago now. Even so, we have an array of different Endermen. We've also got end nodes. We have a huge dragon's nest where you can kill a dragon. Not to mention this place is still getting updated. We got the Zealot Bruiser hideout with even more cracked Endermen, which give you even more chance to drop a Summoning Eye as opposed to the regular Zealots in the dragon's nest. You can now even salvage the items that you get from anywhere around the end, or from the dragon if you don't want them, and turn them into dragon essence, and then upgrade your stats within the end with this guy, which seems to be working properly. I don't know what's going on. Never mind. But this isn't even as good as it gets, because the Nether Island also got a huge update around about a year ago too. The Crimson Isles is undoubtedly the most endgame that combat has to offer within Hypixel Skyblock. And I don't even know where to start. There's so many things that have been added in this update. For instance, 2 competing factions that you have to basically do jobs for in order to get more reputation so that you can then progress through the Crimson Isles and Kudra. Kudra itself, basically a Crimson Isle version of dungeons in a way. A boss, Kudra, that you have to kill in 5 different tiers. The highest tier, Infernal, providing probably one of the best money making methods out there. In order to kill the bosses and get items, you need keys, so you can kill these mini bosses, or even spawn vanquishers. Also, some of the highest health mobs we've ever really seen. Not to mention the insanely expensive and ridiculous progression on things like Crimson Armor, or Terror Armor, or Aurora, or Fever Armor. There's so much to do, and this is barely even scratching the surface. Honestly, I would mention Alchemy, but this is a little bit neglected too. At the end of the day, what else can you really do other than brew potions? Yeah. But of course, when you consider everything else that you can do on, well, any other island relating to any other skill, you can kind of see why foraging is in desperate need of an update. Foraging is undoubtedly one of the main skills in the game. You've got to focus on it. It gives you strength. Strength is one of the main stats in the game. You know, before Skyblock levels were a thing, to unlock the Bazaar, foraging was one of the skills that you needed to upgrade. It's just completely and utterly baffling to me. Now, I mentioned every other skill except fishing. Now, well, let me put it this way. At the moment, foraging is the equivalent as if every time you went fishing, you just fished up a raw fish. Because there's nothing different ever. You chop a log, you get wood. Chop another log, and you get wood. And that's it. With fishing, if you just fished up raw fish every time, people wouldn't fish. Now, so it turns out that the plan that Hypixel has for the foraging update when it eventually does release, they have confirmed that they are working on it, okay, but still, 2 years. The plan they have for it is something similar to, well, I guess the progression in the Dwarven Mines and Crystal Hollows, which does sound really good. I mean, it would actually make people forage, and it would make it more entertaining, give it more purpose, and if you can make more coins from it, then it incentivizes more people to do it. And that realistically is all we want. Obviously, we don't want it to be a carbon copy of the Dwarven Mines and Crystal Holes progression. Something similar is fine, and surely that's not too hard to implement. When I say not too hard, I can imagine it's fairly difficult, but, like, don't say you're going to do something if you're not actually going to do it. Now, something that was mentioned was a new type of wood that they're going to introduce. The obvious suspects for a new type of wood would be something like the wood that they have in the Nether. That's 1.16. Some of the new mud that they have in the swamps on the newer versions of Minecraft, but that's even newer versions. So that makes me think, just like with Mithril and Gemstones from the Dwarven Mines and Crystal Hollows, there's probably going to be something completely new. Something like with Mithril. Mithril isn't Mithril. Mithril is really wool and prismarine blocks. I assume they're going to have to use an already existing block within like 1.8.9 Minecraft or whatever Hypixel even goes up to, which should be pretty interesting. I don't know when this update's going to come out. I hope it's relatively soon, but I don't think it's going to be that soon, considering on the alpha, they're obviously testing a different new update. I just don't see why it's been held back for so long. It just is completely and utterly confusing to me. But anyway, let me know what you think on the whole foraging update situation in the comments. Anyway, if you have enjoyed today's video, make sure you do leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one.